Using Google Scholar, a lesson for adult learners, Part 2. Online learning has now been around long enough for researchers to have identified some key differences between traditional instructor-led classroom instruction and self-paced, web-based tutorials. Classroom instruction is synchronous or conducted in real time. Because everyone is together in a room, it can be more collaborative. The subject expert or instructor is available for question and answer, and it's possible for the instructor to informally assess how each student is doing. Classroom instruction can be pretty low-tech, and students of all ages are very familiar with the setting. A self-paced online tutorial is asynchronous, meaning that students are accessing the content well after the instructor developed and presented it. Collaboration isn't possible, and the subject expert or instructor is not available to the students. Because it's impossible for the instructor to actually see or hear students, some type of formal assessment must be done to gauge student learning. There are all kinds of technology considerations, software, hardware, bandwidth, and students may not be as comfortable with a virtual learning environment. There are, however, a number of advantages to self-paced online learning. Students can access the content at any time from any place they choose. Because content is developed in anticipation of students' use, it must be fairly student-centered. With less interaction, students can engage at their own proficiency and comfort level, and access to supporting documentation and resources can be just a click away. On the other hand, there may be technical limitations or challenges related to the student's computer skills. As I mentioned previously, instructors can't get cues through interacting with students, and since the materials are prepared in advance, content can't be adjusted on the fly to address student needs. So let's take a look at the outcomes for the two lessons using Google Scholar. For the first question, I was interested in seeing how frequently students touched on the key aspects of the Google Scholar tool. As you see here, more of the concepts were mentioned in the post-lesson descriptions. It's interesting to note that only the online students mentioned that Google Scholar provides access to full text. The second question measured whether students knew how to search for useful resources using Google Scholar. While the classroom students were more familiar with it before the lesson, all students felt that they knew how to use Google Scholar after the lesson. The third question measured whether students were able to evaluate the quality of information resources. In this case, the online students felt more knowledgeable before the lesson, but again, all students indicated that they knew how to evaluate resources after the lesson. Finally, I was interested in how students would apply what they learned about using Google Scholar. For the classroom students, the lesson appeared to build awareness of using Google Scholar for professional or personal information needs, in addition to academic research needs. Both before and after the lesson, the online students appeared to think of Google Scholar as a useful tool for doing any type of research. Overall, there was no significant difference in learning outcomes due to delivery method. There was a greater increase in learning by online students, but this was probably due to less familiarity before the lesson. In describing Google Scholar, online students highlighted the ability to access full text online. The classroom students didn't mention full text access in their descriptions. The advantages of online learning may outweigh the disadvantages when content is well organized and delivery method replicates instructional strategies used in the classroom. One rewarding aspect of providing these lessons was getting positive feedback from my students. I'm glad that I chose a topic that proved helpful to this audience, especially since I have to work with them. I think the skills gained through this lesson will be helpful in meeting academic, professional, or personal research needs for these students. The content is easily adapted for student researchers in any grade, although I would advise that the scholarly resources identified should be evaluated and selected based on reading level. Finally, I'd like to share the list of resources that I consulted along with a link to the online tutorial in case anyone wants more information. Thank you for your attention.